Hello everyone, welcome to today's webinar session, Getting Started with CK12 Adaptive Practice and Assignments. I'm Katie, one of the CEP program managers, and my colleague Lindsay and I will be running today's webinar.
Yes, welcome everyone. I always love flipping the switch on our webinar and going live and seeing where all you guys are from. We have people here from Ecuador and from Australia and Nova Scotia and St. Louis, and it's Thursday in California, but it's Friday in Australia. So it's a lot of fun to see where you are, but thank you for taking time out of your day or your night or wherever you are, whatever time it is, to join us today. Also, welcome back to those of you who participated in our Certified Educator program this July. I see a lot of familiar names, some former certified educators and some people who are trying to finish up the Certified Educator program. So just a little information here at the front for all of you guys. The Certified Educator program is something that CK12 offers, and it's completely free. And we certify participants when they attend 5 live webinar sessions and watch 2 on-demand sessions and complete 7 matching assignments. So for any of you on this webinar today who already joined us for sessions this summer and are attending today to fulfill your live requirements, you're already in our CEP July 2019 class, and we want you to keep doing work there and finishing up your certification. If you are brand new to the Certified Educator program, or if you're like, what is she talking about? I need more information. I'm gonna send you to ck12.org/certified, and there is a button on there that says register. You can read all of the information about our program and fill out a form, and we will kick back to you information about how to get started with assignments. Like I said, today's webinar would count as one of the 5 live requirements to work your way toward becoming a CK12 certified educator. So at the end of today's webinar, we can discuss more about the Certified Educator program for any of you who have questions, or you're welcome to type Certified Educator questions in the Q&A window for our team, Katie, Star. We've got a bunch of people here today to answer your questions privately.
So let's make sure everyone is comfortable with the Zoom webinar platform. For those of you guys returning, welcome back. For the rest of you, just please note that there are 2 different options. So there's Q&A and chat. As Lindsay said, you guys are already up and running in the chat window, sharing your experiences. Please make sure when you do that, you choose the all panelists and attendees option so that everyone can see your responses if you're not trying to kind of just post to us. And if you are just trying to get in touch with us and ask us a question, we ask that you try to do that in the Q&A window. That helps us track and make sure that we've answered all the questions being asked before we sign off from the webinar. So just kind of keep that in mind. We don't anticipate any technical or audio issues, but if you have any issues, feel free to reach out in chat or Q&A, and we will try to address them.
Another thing that we want to share with you is that we have created a resource page for all of our webinar sessions, and you can find it at the tiny URL listed on the screen, or we're going to put that in the chat window here in a moment for all of you. It's tinyurl.com/CK12 Practice 2019. Now, there's no immediate action item here. You don't need to click on that link right now or download or print right now. But just know that it's there, and it should be a reminder of most of the things that I'm covering in today's webinar. So it's a resource page for you to just keep as a reference to use at a later date.
So in today's webinar, we're going to cover 3 topics. The first is our adaptive practice system that has 150,000 plus questions in it, and it adapts to student performance by challenging them with harder questions or recommending resources. We'll then go into CK12 classes, so both creating and managing classes, and then the features that are in there. So sharing content, hosting discussions, making assignments, seeing reports, all that fun stuff. And we will wrap up with the assignment and report piece. So assigning practice, assigning other modalities in our system. If that word is unfamiliar, that just means kind of a video or interactive or any way to learn. And then seeing student progress. So you can see their answers, levels, time spent, etc. as you work your way through. So we want to get a sense of who's on here today, and we're going to launch a poll right now. So there are 2 questions on this poll. We'll get that up and running there. That first question is, how familiar are you with our adaptive practice tool? So if you're brand new, this is the right session to join us for. You're getting all that kind of introductory content. If you've used it in the past or even started to customize quizzes, hopefully this will help fill in any gaps and share some new information about our newest options within our practice and reporting system. And then the second question asks, which of the following modalities have you assigned to your students? And please feel free, especially for that, to choose all that apply. And this could be something you've assigned within a CK12 class or within Google Classroom, Canvas, Schoology, Edmodo, kind of whatever other learning management system might be integrated where you can make those assignments and see progress. So we're gonna just give you a minute or so to kind of fill this out, read through it, answer those questions. That will give us a sense of who's here today. And we can then use that to help guide how in-depth we go for any of our particular pieces.
Well, while they're finishing up, Katie, there is a question that just came into Q&A that's an easy one to answer while they're locking in their answers. It's, will the production be available afterwards for review? Yes, we are recording this webinar and we will have it on our website within 24 hours. So again, hopefully you can kind of sit back and relax and, you know, watch the demonstration, or if you're the type of learner who needs to browsers open and you need to do as I'm doing, that's another strategy too. But we will have this recording available for you to rewatch.
So I think with that, maybe we'll give you 5 seconds to kind of, if you haven't submitted but you're almost done, go ahead and submit those answers. And we will stop that poll and share those results. So let's see who is here today. So it looks like most of you, 74%, are new to this practice.
The new folks.
Welcome to today's session. And some of you guys have used it in different capacities. And so once again, we're going to cover a few things that have been updated recently in our system. And then also, hopefully we can fill in gaps or maybe answer some specific questions you might be having if you are using that. And then if we look kind of at what you guys have been using, it seems fairly split across different pieces. A lot of text or practice or quizzes, all of that makes sense as we work our way through. So I think with that, we shall move forward. We can
close that up. That's great information to have. It looks like people are more toward the beginning end. And that's great because today, by the end of this session, here's our goal. This is what you should be able to do at the end of this webinar. Find and assign a Flexbook 2.0 lesson with adaptive practice. Find and assign individual modalities, including interactives, videos, and real-world applications. Create a new CK12 class or make changes to an existing one. Find detailed per question feedback on students' completed work. And quickly see class-level reports with a heat map of student progress and skill. And I'd also like to say that we recently redesigned our website, so you might also be seeing some fun new navigational changes as well.
So just to note, if you guys are going to join us later this fall or check the recorded webinar, kind of depending on how quickly you need this information, we do have a second practice and assignment session. It's called Customizing CK12 Adaptive Practice and Assignments. And in that session, we cover a number of kind of more advanced topics. So customizing practice into quizzes, settings, adding concepts, reordering questions, creating new questions, using our math editor. All of those are kind of in that quiz creation customization piece. And then swapping practice out or embedding those quizzes inline in one of our new 2.0 lessons. And then also assigning and getting reports and insights for quizzes. So all of that's kind of the next level. If you have questions on this, we are more than happy to answer them, but we will prioritize the questions at kind of that basic level first. So we'll try to answer those either in text or save them and answer them and demo that live at the end. But we want to make sure that we have time to cover that initial core content to start with. So feel free to, as I said, anything on these higher topics or working with a learning management system that's integrated, feel free to ask us those questions, but know that we will push those towards the end or try to answer them kind of separately as we go through. So I think with that, we're going to jump into the first topic on adaptive practice.
Great. Let's get to it. Okay. Our CK12 adaptive practice system, we're really proud of this. We think that this is an amazing way for students to learn. And I probably don't say it enough that, again, we are a nonprofit and all of our resources are completely free. So we do not charge. You will not hit a paywall. We don't ask you to put in credit card information. We just want you to get it in the hands of students because we think it's a really powerful learning tool. So our system does have 150,000 questions that cover primarily math and science with some spelling questions as well. We offer questions at 3 levels. It's going to adapt to student performance that allows for some differentiation. We offer content when students struggle. And like Katie said, our adaptive practice can be customizable into quizzes, which is going to be covered in the more advanced webinar session later on. So I'm going to show you several ways to access adaptive practice, depending on if you're assigning a Flexbook 2.0 lesson or if you're wanting to use the standalone modality at ck12.org/practice. But first, let's look at just how it works. So our system is set up to challenge students to answer 10 questions correctly. Students are going to see this message at the top of their practice that says, get in the game, get 10 answers to complete your practice goal. Our system meets students where they are. With those 3 levels of questions, easy, medium, and hard, the system will match the student's level and will gradually increase or decrease difficulty depending on how students are performing. So this means that a student who is struggling may hit the goal of 10 correct with mainly easy questions, and a student who's more advanced would have more of a mix of levels. So for teachers, this ensures that each student is progressively and appropriately challenged while maintaining a clear record of each student's understanding. So having questions that adapt to students' needs is awesome, but CK12 takes it to the next level by making content recommendations in the moment. If a student is struggling, CK12 will intervene by recommending helpful resources like reads and videos. This is really the magic to the system. If you are teaching 5 classes a day with 30 students in each class, it's really difficult to make it to everyone and to differentiate for all students in the moment. But our system's going to do the heavy lifting for you and ensure that students are being appropriately challenged and supported. So let's take a look at a sample practice screen for adding and subtracting money. I'll let you decide where in the world French fries are $5.28 and the hot dog is $8.65. That seems awfully high to me, but maybe we're at a ballpark or maybe we're visiting one of your countries where prices are higher. But anyway, looking at the screen, okay? The first thing that's labeled up there with the number 1 is the progress bar. And this displays the number of questions answered correctly. So you can see that our system has already set the goal of getting 10 correct. And that is a system requirement that cannot be changed by the teacher or student. You're always trying to get 10 correct. So that second one there, you're going to see the skill level meter that's going to increase or decrease based on the student's correct and incorrect answers. Then we have all different types of questions that are going to appear in practice, including multiple choice, true, false, fill in the blank, select all that apply. Images sometimes appear in our questions. Down at the bottom, we have the hints that are available in the bottom left during practice for most of our concepts. Sometimes the hint appears as text, or it's sometimes in a short video, particularly in kind of the questions geared toward the younger kids. We have a scratch pad that's available for all questions if students want to use their mouse or if they're using an iPad and using a stylus or fingers to write on the screen to solve a problem. And then we have Improve This Question, which just gives users a chance to report any issue they might see with a question or answer, and that goes directly to the CK12 staff. The report screen, when a student presses Stop Now on the adaptive practice, they're going to see this report. And if you're a teacher who's assigned this practice to your student, you're going to have access to some of this reporting as well if the assignment is turned in. You can see if the student has met the goal of getting 10 correct, which would be 100%. So in this case, you can see that only 7 questions were completed and submitted. Other answers, other information includes the best streak, and the time spent. So, you know, there's a big difference between getting 7 questions correct in 2 minutes versus 7 questions correct in 30 minutes. So that time can be really helpful. The skill level meter there is a very useful indicator on the student's progress. It goes from beginning to mastery. And then if you want more information about that skill meter, you can click the info icon or press learn more in the pop-up box. And it's going to give you a help desk article that's going to go in more deeply about what those different levels mean. So one other thing that you see on the screen that's highlighted at the bottom is that we have recommendations for how to continue exploring this concept. So for instance, our intelligence system says that students who watch this video score an 87% or higher on the practice. If you were to keep scrolling down this report, this is just a still shot, obviously, but if you were to keep scrolling, you would see each question, its easy, medium, or hard label, and the exact answer the student typed or selected. Then the nice thing is this is a practice tool. We want students to keep practicing. So they could do a little before dinner and then do a little after dinner and a little on the way to school. So they can always press that orange button and keep practicing, starting and stopping at any time. And they could even go beyond 10 correct and keep challenging themselves. So I'm going to go live with a demo now, and we're going to put all this together and see what it looks like on our site.
And don't forget to everyone that you guys are welcome to put questions even as Lindsay is demoing this, and we will continue to answer them or stop every now and then and answer them live as well.
Gosh, no questions must mean I'm just doing this all perfectly and just everything is just crystal clear, right? Right.
Keep it up.
No, feel free to put your questions in as you have them. I don't know if you guys have seen this new homepage because this just launched a few days ago, I think. But this is a slightly redesigned landing page for teachers. So if you have not signed in to CK12, that is kind of the one thing that we want you to do is we want you to be able to set up an account and to sign in as a user. Here you can see I'm signed into a Jumpstart demo account. But as you identify yourself as a teacher, you would see this landing page. And I'll show you the student one in a little bit. It's a little bit different. But a couple of kind of newer features on the landing page is this explore option here. I find this to be a really useful way to quickly access some of the different types of resources that CK12 can offer. So if you know that you're wanting to go to our Flexbooks 2.0, you can go straight there here. If you're looking for a simulation or a Plix, information about our certified educator program, we try to have some easy links here for you under this explore menu option. So I encourage you to check that out. Notice that our topic today, adaptive practice, I could click on this and it would take me straight to our adaptive practice browse page. As you continue to scroll down, we also have kind of branches here with different subjects. So you could go straight to what you know you're looking to teach. And then I also like these kind of explore modules down here. It's just another place to, again, if you're trying to get to a Flexbook or adaptive practice, we offer multiple ways for you to get there. And you can continue scrolling down and again, learn more about CK12, see some new exciting things, see some testimonials, or we also have some great things kind of in our footer as well. All right, but trying to get back on topic here. So let's talk about adaptive practice from our Flexbook 2.0. I know a lot of you are into the Flexbook 2.0s now. So I'm gonna go to the Flexbook 2.0 browse page here, and this is gonna give you a little bit of information about what's new with our latest, greatest Flexbooks. And if I keep scrolling down, I can see our interactive Flexbooks for math, and then our interactive Flexbooks for science. And just to demo here, I'm gonna use our CK12 interactive physics book. So when I select that, I get information about the book at the top, but I have all of the different chapters here of this book. And let's look at motion in one dimension. And then I can select any of these that I'd like. So we'll go down to acceleration due to gravity. And when I click on that lesson, I'm taken to a start page. that has other ways to learn. So this is pretty cool. If you're using our Flexbooks and you're sending students to our lesson on acceleration due to gravity, they're also going to see all of these other ways to learn, these extensions, these simulations, a Plix, a real world application, a video, and a study guide. So these are tools that you could use as a teacher in your classroom, or you could use them as extra activities for your students. But pressing start takes me to the actual lesson. And so here is the CK12 content on acceleration due to gravity. We open up with an image, and you can scroll down and you can see that these interactive books have interactivity just embedded right there in the lesson. This is a simulation, which is great. We've got example problems, scroll down, another simulation, and we have a video here as well with some more questions. But on the side, again, our topic for today is practice, and I can view practice. Now, since I'm just in teacher mode here, it's just going to let me preview the practice. But if you'd assign this to your students, they would have the ability to start practice right after they interact with our lesson here. And let me show you what this looks like live, because I just did this kind of in our keynote presentation. But once again, we're out of 10 here. I'm just beginning with the skill level meter. We've got hints, we've got scratch pads. So let me just start typing in some probably not very good answers. Even if you miss it, you get a positive message, which is great. I'm gonna miss that one too. Plot spoiler, I missed this one. And I'm not doing very well, am I? So notice that the system just kind of took over here. It caused me, it made me pause what I was doing, because it knew that I was just typing in random answers and I was missing a lot of these questions. And it has popped up a recommendation and said, hey, I think you should read more about acceleration due to gravity. I think you should try this simulation, or here's a video that might help as well. So like I said, if you're in a classroom of students working on adaptive practice, you do not have to individually, be stopping by students and making recommendations for how they can help their learning. Our system is doing that for them. Your advanced students, your beginning students, all of them are being challenged and getting the information that they need, because our system is going to progressively get easier or harder based on their responses. Students can again select these ways to learn and then come back to practice, or they could just return to practice and ignore the suggestions. Like I said, there are hints available here. And then there's a scratch pad if I need to diagram something. I'm doing this with a mouse. It's not the best solution. You've got different ways to navigate the scratch pad here. Eventually, if I started to answer questions correct, my skill level meter should progressively go up. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and stop for now. And this is going to take me to a pretty sad report saying that my practice goal is at 0%. I think I tried a few of these questions earlier, so that's why it's saying that I've spent 5 minutes total on this lesson. I'm still at the beginning level. You can see what my answers were. Not good. As we scroll down here, you can also see the labels of the question, whether they're easy, medium, or hard. And again, I never really got out of the easy level because I got 0 correct. A few other things that I want to point out on this page is that if you are a teacher, you have the option to download this as a worksheet if anybody needs the static questions. Okay, I'm going to close out of that for a moment. And I'm back on the lesson page. Just a couple other things too. You're going to see a button across the screen like this. Would you like to assign this to your class? So we'll be talking about this a little bit later in the webinar, but when I press this button, this is what easily takes you to a CK12 class or easily gets you to Google Classroom. So you have the ability to assign right from the top bar here, or if I go to my toolbar, I can also assign this lesson with the attached practice from this toolbar as well. Okay, So I am going to go back out to CK12. Pressing this logo takes me to the home page, which is something helpful, I think. And I just want to show you what this looks like if you are not using a Flexbook 2.0, but you are wanting to just use the practice tool. We like the workflow of having the lesson right beside the practice, but if you just need the practice, one way to do that would be to come to our adaptive practice browse page here. That was a place to access it. You could go directly to ck12.org/practice as well. But this breaks down the practice by subject. So if I was just in physics in that Flexbook, if I go to physics here, I'm going to see the same topics. It's just, a different way of browsing the practice. If I go to, let's go to motion in 2 dimensions. One thing I wanted to show you is that you can see what you've attempted in the practice browse page. So I'm at 80% for projectile motion for an object launched horizontally. I'm at 50%. So I can click into any of these at any time and continue practicing if I would like. Okay. I told you about the download worksheet button. Again, here's another clipboard, a place for you as a teacher to assign this to your class. And then this customize button is an exciting one that, again, this is the main topic of our customizing adaptive practice webinar. That's the more advanced one that comes later. All right, Katie, I'm going to come up for air. It looks like I have left some room for questions from our users. Let's see what everybody wants to know.
Sure. Let me start with, I think, the first 2 that are asking about skill level and metrics. Maybe we can talk a little bit about what that looks like. To give you guys an idea that beginning to mastery level, if you note right there, it says it's based on a couple of things. It takes into the account the difficulty level of each question, and then a sense of kind of which of those questions they're getting wrong or right. So if a student messes up an easy question versus messing up a hard question, that would be weighted differently in that. So it takes into account kind of both whether or not they're getting it correct or incorrect, and then also the difficulty level of that question. So hopefully that answers your metrics and skill level pieces. If you want more information, we have an explanation of kind of how we broke that skill level up into 5 different parts in that learn more. Lindsay, we have a request to see what this looks like for a student. Do you want to take that? Basically, it's the same thing.
Sure. So I'm just going to go back to the home page, and I said that this Jumpstart demo account is a teacher account, but I can switch over to student version here. And the student version homepage is a little bit different because we're just trying to reach them in a different way. So we have a video to get them excited up here, and then they've got these, cards with pretty pictures on them to find their subjects. But for students, if they're in physics was what I was just looking at, right? If they went to motion in 1 dimension, it's going to pretty much be the same flow. Actually, this isn't going to do it because I'm not really in a student account. It doesn't look much different. Katie, did you have any thoughts on this? What was the actual question of, like, the students would come here and it would say start practice, and then they would start practice. But otherwise the workflow is going to be the same for the student. When I'm in a class later, I can show you what the assignment process is like for students.
Great. The next question is about that worksheet that you referenced on the practice page. That worksheet will pull a randomly selected set of questions. It usually tries to put a variety of easy, medium, and hard questions in that worksheet, a variety of kind of multiple choice or short answer questions in that worksheet, and spit out a sample set of those questions. As Lindsay talked about, this practice changes based on how a student does. So Lindsay was typing in random answers and wasn't being as successful as someone else might be if they'd actually read through and tried to solve those questions. So the download worksheet would be kind of triggered as you as a teacher can download that. If a student wanted to practice more, they could, but it might pull a random new set of questions. It's not correlated to how an individual student did, but more kind of trying to pull a subset from the larger practice. And then doesn't always give the same question. So Linz, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, each concept has a certain number of questions for that concept. So some of our more robust concepts may have, 50, 60, 70 questions attached to them. Some of the concepts that maybe aren't as key to understanding might have closer to 15 or 20. So we serve up a random combination of those in adaptive practice. And then, like I said, it's going to go from easy, medium, and hard depending on how the student is progressing. But they are all being served up questions from that same CK12 question bank of over 150,000 questions.
Great. We have one last question, but it's about assigning, and I might just hold off on that because we're going to cover CK12
yes,
classes.
We're going to get to that
CK12
soon.
assigning. So we'll get there shortly. So let me swap back. I'm going to steal the screen back from Lindsay and share this. And from here, I want to give you a chance to kind of hear from one of our certified educators, Nathaniel Eugene. He uses adaptive practice in some pretty cool ways that we got to go see when Lindsay and I actually went down to Baltimore and got to videotape some of his middle school students. So let's hear what he has to say.
There are three big reasons that I really want them to be on CK12. The first thing I think is what it does, it allows them to improve, it allows them to extend the lesson that I'm teaching, so they could maybe build on skills that I can't cover in the classroom. And sometimes when they come to me, they have a lot of learning gaps. CK12 allows them to focus on those skills that I can't touch on class.
So does 80 go into 1,000?
The question they're working on actually is slightly above grade level, but they trying to challenge themselves. So they're probably going to be for just a little while trying to figure it out. But that's one of the reasons I use it, so that our slightly higher kids can get an extra challenge. Another thing is it makes them very competitive, very motivated, and they tend to do better on standardized testing when they are that motivated. When you send kids to the board, you actually get to see them struggle. You see things that you really wouldn't notice if you were the one up front. So what I try to do is try to turn the class over to them so that it becomes more student-centered as opposed to just teacher-centered.
Plus 20 minus 36.
And then you have, well, what's 20 minus 36? Can you simplify 20 minus 36? By them being able to access the Plix activities, the flex books, the videos, they choose the styles that they want to learn in.
I think CK12 is very beneficial to me because when I don't understand a certain concept in the classroom, I usually just go look on CK12 and he puts the assignment up there so like he can make us understand, and the first thing he always tells us to do is watch the videos and like use the reading to try to help us, and that really helped me out learning like polynomials, how to multiply them, factoring them.
It makes them more independent of me, and for me it's more than just standardized testing. It's making them lifelong learners, independent learners, so they can actually go ahead of me and touch on topics that I haven't even covered yet, because they have that confidence that I can learn it in the way that I want to learn it.
So hopefully that gave you kind of a chance to see some of that in action in a class. That use of a smart board and having kids kind of do that work and the scratch pad on the board is really cool to see. So we're going to talk about some ways to assign work, and we're going to start with CK12 classes. So if you are going to join us for the Certified Educator program, or you're wrapping up that program, you are part of a CK12 class. So hopefully that will be helpful because you'll get the experience of being a student in a class, accessing resources, completing assignments, seeing your reports. But we're going to have Lindsay kind of talk about what it's like to do that as a teacher. And actually, let me talk just one more note before we start. CK12 classes versus a learning management system. So we are talking about CK12 classes here. This is something you can use if you don't use an integrated learning management system. It's free, it's available for everyone to use. However, if you are using Schoology, Canvas, or Google Classroom and you want all of your assignments in one place, we are fully integrated with them. We pass grades back and forth, so you can assign content from CK12 directly to Google Classroom. Lindsay kind of showed you that pop-up a little bit earlier. And then within Canvas and Schoology, you can pull up CK12 content and assign it and see their reports in there. So please note that if you are using one of those, we recommend that you continue to use that option to assign work and not also create a CK12 class. That can get a little confusing. But we do offer sessions on our integration with Canvas and Schoology and with Google Classroom. You can watch those or join us in the future for those. So we're going to talk about classes right now, which will be useful to know and is an option for all of you, but just keep in the back of your head that if you use one of those learning management systems, you can continue to assign work within that or to that and see all of their progress right there.
All right, so Katie just laid the groundwork for that of CK12 classes. It's just one of many different ways you can assign work, but like she said, we did our certified educator program this year in a CK12 class, and many people were surprised at how rich that is, how kind of robust that environment is. And we made some believers out of people that were really thankful to have the option to assign work through classes. And again, you folks who are diehard Google Classroom, Canvas, or Schoology, that's awesome too, because you can assign our work directly through that. But let me just keep an open mind though about CK12 classes. Let me walk you through what it would look like to set up a class in this environment. So I am back on a teacher homepage here, and one of the buttons up here at the top is classes. And when I press that, I'm taken directly to my class dashboard. If you are a new class user, you probably get a little bit of a tutorial or a slower walkthrough kind of onboarding you to these classes environment and talking you through different screens. For mine, you can see that I already have 22 classes set up in this account. You can see some of these. Some of these are just demo classes we've created in webinars, or a few of these are pretty active classes. Like this one has 948 people in it right now. If you're wanting to create classes though, this plus sign is the place to do it. So when I press the plus sign, I have the option as a teacher to create a class or to join a class. So I am going to create a class, and you get this window where you're going to create a class name. It's an optional class description. You can choose the subject and you can choose a theme. So for anyone here's some really creative class names I've used in the past, but say you are teaching geometry and you've decided that you're going to organize your CK12 classes by class period, by like hour. So I might say that this is my geometry hour 3 class. And I could add in a class description. I can go ahead and select my subject here, and I can choose purple because obviously that's the most exciting color to create my class. And so I'm going to create class. And now you see that I have my geometry hour 3 class right here in my teacher dashboard. Something I want you to think about as you're creating classes is that, if you are a middle school or a high school teacher and you have 5 or 6 classes a day, class periods a day, you would probably want to set them up separately just so you can, easily navigate through reports. We have a lot of homeschool educators who use our system, and they might choose to set up classes by student. Audrey might have her own class. Mary might have her own class. Because through CK12, you do need to have different classes set up if you're wanting to assign different assignments. You can't assign different work in one class. That whole class would receive the same assignment. So that's just one thing to think about as you're considering creating classes, how you might structure that. When you're ready to add students to class, because I just created this, but it says that there's no members yet. And so I need to add some students. And you have some options in how you want to do this. You could invite your students by email. You could set up IDs for your students to access this class. You could ask CK12 to help you with a roster upload from like a spreadsheet. Or you could find existing students if you have the same students year over year. When I press this invite students by email code, It has kind of a sample of how I might want to send this to my students to get them to join. There is a class code, and there's several places here in this environment where I can find that class code, but I would say that putting the class code on the board or emailing it is a really great way to get students into the class easily, because I'm going to close out of this. When I switched over to that student version earlier on the homepage, students are going to come to this homepage, and now right at the top it says, do you have a class code? And so when students press that, they can enter the class code right there and instantly join your class. So really all you have to do is get them the code, and they type in the number and they join the class, and then they're in your classroom environment. Okay, so some things to point out. Let me go back to a class that has some kind of work populated in it. We had some interns do some demo assignments for us here in a summer 2019 class. But again, classes are a place where teachers can share resources, assign work, and see progress. So a few things I want to point out. We have a Q&A feature that teachers can enable or disable. This is a place where you could have a discussion forum if you wanted within your classroom. And some teachers think that this is awesome and they want to have a dialogue with their students, and other teachers prefer to turn that off completely, and you can have the option of either. Shared resources, this is the place where you as a teacher could put additional resources. Maybe they need to access a PDF of something related to the CK12 lesson. So you can share resources. You could also share your book here that students will be referencing. This is a place to do that. Only teachers can add shared resources though. Members, this is where you see who's a student, who is the administrator of this class, and then you have the option to add a co-teacher. So a co-teacher is able to see reports and see assignments. So we built this for you folks who are in a situation where you have another teacher in your classroom with you who needs to be able to see how students are doing. You can easily add them as a co-teacher. And then kind of going down the menu here under settings, this is where you control some of these different options. This is the class code for summer 2019. So again, I could just give that to my students and they can type it in on their homepage. I could send out a class link for them to join. I can control email notifications. I can turn on or off my Q&A settings, and I can delete a class if I need to delete a class. Or when I come back out to classes on my dashboard, I can also hide a class if I need to. If I just don't want to see it on my dashboard anymore, I can hide it as well. And I can toggle here between my current classes, and if I want to see something that I've hidden, I can go back to the hidden classes as well. So let me pause there for a second. We're going to talk a little bit more about assignments and what this looks like if you're using a learning management system. So I'm really just interested right now of Katie, are there any questions that are talking about the CK12 class environment?
Yeah, there was one question that was kind of asked right before we started that I wanted to make sure we addressed. And that is, if I have, let's say, multiple classes where I want to assign all the same work to them, do I just make one class in CK12, or would you recommend like multiple classes in CK12?
Yeah, I mean, everybody has a different strategy of, you're used to a grade book, which I think is more typically broken down by class period. I think that that's personally how I would do it in my classroom. But if you're in a different situation where maybe you only see 30 or 40 students throughout the day and you want to put them all in the same class, it's whatever is manageable to you. My brain would want to probably see what geometry hour 1 did versus geometry hour 3. I would want to see their reporting separately. But we're in classrooms all the time where everybody has their own system. So it's an individual preference. Just the key rule is that, you have to keep in mind that each class can get its own assignments, but you can't assign things individually within the class.
Yeah, and I would just make one additional note. Due dates are based on classes. So if you have 3 class periods that get off sync for any reason based on an assembly or a snow day or whatever, then that would be a good reason to kind of keep those as separate because you might have different due dates. So
block scheduling, different days. You're right. Good point.
All sorts of things. We have a couple different questions on Google Classroom and Schoology and Canvas. Once again, we can cover those in detail if you wanted to see what that looked like at the end of this. But we also have a full 30-minute archived recording webinar. So definitely check those out if you want to see it kind of in more detail.
Well, I think why don't you steal the screen back? I think we're going to probably touch on some of those questions that people are asking as we're going to talk about assigning modalities, and then I think we have a few charts that talk about what the reporting look like in those learning management systems. So I bet we'll answer a few of these in this section.
Yeah, so we're going to move into, as Lindsay just said, assignments and reports. So the first thing I want to cover is the difference between sharing and assigning. So across our site, you're going to see some different options to share. You'll see different options to assign. This is an example Flexbook 2.0 lesson on continental drift. And you can see kind of on the right there that assign class, share to class. So if you choose the assign option, whether at the top or in that assign to class option, it's going to pop up this window that please select your platform. And as Lindsay said, assignments for CK12 and Google Classroom come straight from CK12. Canvas and Schoology are a little different, but those are there. And that will assign that within students' classes. And then when they do that work and they turn it in, you as a teacher will see their report. Now, share is a little different. So if I click that share button, I could share, basically I'm sharing this page in its current form. I can send it in as an email to someone else and say, check this out. I can post it on social media. And then if I share it to Google Classroom there, please note that that is not an assignment. Even if you choose kind of within Classroom an assignment or question or post, you are sharing it and there will be no grade pass back there. You do need to do that assignment. And then if I click the share to class at the bottom, that would be to a CK12 class. And so it would open up your classes there and it would share it as a resource within a CK12 class, which is what kind of Lindsay was showing from there. So all of the resources that we talk about have a unique URL. So you can always just copy and paste that URL if you want to share it with others. But you can use a little green share plane you might see on some pages or some of these options in 2.0 to assign or share. So those are a little bit different because that assigning option will give you that report.
This is a lot of information. I know, again, we're trying to give you a tour of our site and show you the capabilities and the possibilities of adaptive practice. And like all websites, there's 20 different ways to do it. So please, please, please don't get overwhelmed with, oh my gosh, I missed the difference between share and assign and this and that. Again, you can watch this video again if you need to. We've got a resource sheet, or we are live people who will take your emails or your phone calls when you guys have questions and need to review this again. But Katie just showed, the assignment of what it looks like from a Flexbook 2.0, but some of you are going to be assigning individual modalities as well, just standalone separate from our books. And that might be a Plix or a simulation or a video or a real world application. So one option is to use our search bar at the top of the homepage and type in a concept. So for this case, we're looking at continental drift. You can click on that top concept page, or you could use our filter option to see a certain type of modality. Another way that you find these individual modalities is as a teacher on our new homepage. When you scroll down, you see these different modules here, where I could click on the Plix browse page or the simulations browse page, and we already explored the adaptive practice browse page. So I want to show you really quickly where you find the assign button for our interactives. So if you are looking at one of our Plix, or if you are looking at one of our simulations, they both have these orange buttons at the top that say assign to class, which will pop up the option to assign to CK12 or to Google Classroom. If you are looking to assign a standalone read or a video or a real world application, you can do so on the left menu where it says assign to class. Like this read on angles, or this video on earthquakes, or this real world application called Keep Your Spit to Yourself. These are all assigned the same way and they all report the same way. So notice you can also view assigned practice from the box in the upper right corner on these individual reads as well. We try to make it obvious. Again, there's a lot of like assigned to class glaring at you. That's what you press to kickstart that assign process.
Great. So I'm going to show you two charts. These are both on that resource page. You do not need to write it all down. It is available for you already. But we want to just kind of remind you some of the pieces about what you're assigning and what that means that you get. So for a Flexbook 2.0 lesson, if it's our standard lesson with attached practice, you're really assigning the practice, but they have to access the read as well. So they actually get a little bit of learning done first. And the report that you get is based on that practice. So percent is out of 100 in CK12. The goal is 10 correct. And then if you in your learning management system say gave that assignment maybe 20 points, then 50% would translate to 10 of those 20 points. Quizzes, so if you customize practice, if you join us for that, those are a true percentage score. That's a great kind of assessment choice instead of a learning practicing tool. And that would be a clean percentage out of whatever 10 questions is goal of 10, 20 questions, goal of 20. If for some reason you make your own Flexbook or that Flexbook doesn't have matching practice, let's say it's one of our history books that we made that didn't have that practice attached to it already, that would just give you credit or no credit for the full or no score within a learning management system. And they do need to turn those in as they go so that you get those reports. Outside of the 2.0 environment, it works the same kind of with that basic. So adaptive practice, still 10 correct, quiz is your true percentage, and then all of our other types of modalities are full or no credit with the goal of kind of opening them and at least accessing them for reads. We're trying to share more and more information on our lessons with you guys as we continue to build out those pieces. And then Clicks and Sims, they at least have to start interacting with it before they can click turn it in. But once again, these charts are on that reference sheet. You do not need to memorize them. You do not need to understand them right now, but you can go back and look at them. So definitely check those out. One really cool thing to show you guys, Lindsay's going to show you our reports, but we did just recently launch the same report, class report level in Google Classroom and in Canvas. Schoology's integration is a little bit different, so we're working to get that up and running, but that one's not quite live yet. If you have old classroom assignments in Google Classroom, this isn't retroactive, so you would still kind of see that individual report, but any new assignments should be giving you this full class level report that I'm going to pass back to Lindsay this presentation, and she's going to show you what assignments and reports look like.
Yeah, so here we are back in my summer 2019 demo class here. A couple of these menu options on the left that I skipped over last time were the assignments and reports. So if you have assigned work through a CK12 class, you are able to do quite a bit in this option over here. You can see that I have 9 assignments that are pretty current, and then it says I have 117 total available assignments. So we keep track of anything that you've assigned to students, where you can easily assign that again. It's just showing you what you've previously assigned. If you do things, you know, day after day, week after week, month after month, you could continually assign those to different classes. If I go into any of these individual assignments, I have some options to select a start date, to select a due date. I can choose whether or not I want to show the correct answers, or if I want to wait until the due date has passed for students to be able to see the correct answers. So lots of options as you're setting up assignments in CK12. But the reports, this is exciting. Again, if some of you have used our reporting system in the past, or you know, if you were assigning work through Google Classroom, even just a couple of weeks ago, you did not have this new reporting system available to you, but now it is. And this is a heat map. So we're trying to make it easier on you as a teacher to quickly identify your students who are doing well or your students who are struggling. And so on the left, you see your students. We just used first name and last initial for our nice interns who, populated this class here. But I could turn this heat map on or off. If you're opposed to it for some reason, you can turn it off if you would like. But I can see what's been assigned. This was a quiz. This was a practice. This is a real world activity, a simulation, a video appliques. And so based on that chart that Katie was just talking you through, you can kind of understand why some of these just have a check mark. Like the real world activity, the simulations, video appliques just have a check mark showing that these students opened it or interacted with it. But our practice has a score out of 100, 100%, meaning did they get their 10 correct or not? And then our quizzes are true scores based on, what they got right or wrong. So here I can press on this student who did this quiz, and I can see the date that this happened in June. 5 out of 8 correct. The best streak was 3. The time was 1.5 minutes. That's concerning. And I can see the answers right here on the side of how the students answered each of these questions. So you as a teacher, you might have time to, you might spend a lot of time here going through of like, why did this student get a 50% on this quiz? Is it because they only spent 45 seconds on it? Is it because, they barely missed something with one of these answers? If you as a teacher need to do a really granular deep dive on a student's progress, we are making that possible for you. Or if you just need more of an at-a-glance report, you can get that as well. I saw in the Q&A earlier, I think, about exporting to your gradebook. This export to a CSV file, that gives you the file that most gradebooks are going to be able to understand. You can easily turn it into an Excel spreadsheet, but then you can start sorting and manipulating the numbers any way that you like. So this is a CSV report. And like Katie said, this is our CK12 class report right now, but if you are in Google Classroom or Canvas and soon to be Schoology, you will be able to see the same reporting system, which again, we think is really helpful for you as teachers to monitor student progress. Okay, I think we're getting close to the hour mark, which usually means that this is the time where you guys type in any final questions that you have. And when Katie back the screen and does some wrap up information.
Yeah, so we had a couple questions in terms of kind of pieces where people were asking about a different goal instead of the goal of 10 correct. Our practice is set at that goal of 10 correct. If you wanted to change that, you would need to kind of build a quiz, and then you can tag questions to our existing concepts or to concepts in your own read if you made up your own content in a different area. So that is all covered in that customizing practice session and our non-STEM and community contributed sessions. But if you have specific questions on that, feel free to reach out to us and we can always kind of show you in more depth, or we can try to answer some of them here. So I think what we'll do is I'm going to steal this back for a second, and then we will wrap up the core stuff. So anyone that wants to head out can do so, and then we'll go back and answer any last questions as we go through. So once again, this sheet, tinyurl.com, CK12.org practice, is the one that has those couple of charts I was showing you on assignments. So definitely check that out. You can access this now or down the road. Feel free to do that. We have 2 upcoming webinars that are already on the books. So we have one in 2 weeks, I think it is, September 26th at 3 o'clock, so 2 hours earlier, on teaching strategies. This is a great introduction one, kind of all different strategies for using CK12 as intros or practice or flipped classrooms or all sorts of cool things. And then our advanced flexbook editing one is on the 8th of October. I think that's a Tuesday. So check those out. You can register for those at ck12.org/webinars. We are looking at scheduling the next batch, which will include our newest Common Core books. It will include our customizing practice session. So keep an eye out for those as well. For those of you guys that have been asking a bunch of questions on Google Classroom and Canvas and Schoology, these recorded webinars from the summer give you a really good overview of how you can assign content and see progress in Google Classroom, how you can assign content and see progress in Canvas and Schoology, and set that up with kind of your district or school level Schoology or Canvas account. So check those webinars out. The one thing that isn't in that recording is that new report feature, which should just, wherever you saw the reports for Canvas and Google Classroom, will bump you into that full class report now. So check those out, and we'll offer those again in the future. And then this is one of those webinar course sessions for the CK12 Certified Educator program. If you joined our 2019 class from the summer, you have access to the book and the assignments. Just finish your work there. If you are new, please go to ck12.org/certified and you can click register. You're down one, only 4 to go. And the confirmation screen for that has all the info you need to join that fall class from there. We do ask if any of you guys are willing and have a minute to fill out our feedback form. It's tinyurl.com CK12 feedback 1920 for the 2019-2020 school year. And that just gives us a chance to get an idea of how we did today, what questions you might still have, how we can improve, and go from there. So I'm going to say thank you. As we said, we are here to support you. You can email support@ck12.org. Let others know. There's some really cool conversations on social media, hashtag CK12 certified if you're in that program and doing that, or just in general CK12. But we're going to stay on. We're going to try to answer some of these questions. We'll probably let Lindsay steal the screen back to show you where the answers to some of them are.
Yes. One of the questions, well, first of all, goodbye to any of you who need to leave us. But one of the questions in Q&A is asking about sharing versus assigning. And that's a great question. Like we said, our resources all have unique URLs. So you could always grab a URL to one of our resources and share it with your students. And I would do that on things that I didn't necessarily want to take as a grade for my from my students. So this demonstration is going great so far. It's asking me to sign in. Think of assigning as you want feedback on how the students did. So on like one of the Flexbook lessons, in our toolbar, you've got the option to share, or you know that you're able to assign as well. Sharing would just give the students the link, and you as a teacher would have no idea if they accessed it or did any practice. And then assigning is going to give you the progress back to them. So,
and if Lindsay actually clicks sign in, because she was logged in with Google originally, it will probably take about 2 seconds to log in. You can see how simple that is.
You think?
Let's see. Let's see. And there we go. You're good to go. All the things you need.
Saved by the sign in. This one still doesn't like me, but that's okay. Anyway, so, as I was saying, sharing might be things like you want to have a warm-up activity where everybody's doing a Plix as a bell ringer. But when I want them to do this lesson at home, I say, I need you to read about angles and triangles, and I need you to do the practice, and I want to know which students reach that 10 out of 10 goal, then I need to assign it to get that pass back. And I hope that kind of helps clarify that.
Cool.
Another question. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, no, the next question is on Align standards. And actually, if you want to open up that 8th grade book again, there's a couple, you can show one piece there, but I want to show also within our newest books.
Okay, real quick, I just wanted to say that you might check, if you're a standards person looking for math or science correlation, you might check these two under the Explore option. But let's find a book. What do we want to look for?
You pick 8th grade math might be a good one.
Let's go to textbooks. How about interactive middle school math for CCSS?
Okay, so there's a couple places on here that are helpful. So one, you can see the standards alignment on there. If you click on that CCSS piece, it should correlate those parts. You can see kind of how that plays out. You can also find information in the right toolbar for any particular piece. This actually, you can see right here, is in that teacher's guide part. It kind of links from there. And then on the toolbar, if you go down to concept details on the right, that gives you some more information. This is the teacher guide, so it's the standards correlation would be added in kind of the student version of that. But you can see a couple different places that you can find that, but then also within the general parts. So if we click on any particular section, properties of translations, and we click start, that toolbar should have the details. And you can see some lesson objectives, some difficulty level, authors and different pieces, subjects, primary concepts, and that standards correlation will jump you straight there as well. So all sorts of options to reach that. I think we are out of questions for today. Hopefully that means we've answered all of yours. Please feel free to reach out to us at support. Feel free to check our webinars page for recordings. If you want to go back and check this one out, we'll post it in the next 24 hours. And we hope to see you later in September for our next webinar.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good night, good day, good evening.